change, we've got two big questions before us. Number one, we've got the Israelis. Now, if Iran and Syria are saying if they get a cruise missile attack, they're going to attack Israel, is the president prepared to defend them? And number two,
no.
I don't. Well, that's a big. Start with that one. Well, but wait a minute. We've got to consider that. And what's the point then of lobbing missiles?
Look, it's very depressing talking about foreign policy whenever a Democrat is president, because they don't care about America's national security interest. That should be the only concern of the man the Constitution makes the commander-in-chief. And by the way, I don't think the president does have to go to Congress to bomb someone. He's the commander-in-chief under the Constitution. If it were necessary, a commander-in-chief could do it. I do not think it is necessary. It wouldn't be a war. It would be bombing. I don't think it's necessary to do here. No, you can. Grenada wasn't a war.
This is interesting.
Let's put that aside and get back to Syria for a moment. Well, I'm right, so let's just leave it there and move on.
Well, I disagree, but go ahead. But it does say
there is a lot of military action the commander-in-chief can take. I do not think he should take it here, and I do not think, unfortunately, he is a Democrat, and Democrats generally, they intervene when it is directly contrary to the interests of the United States. They seem to think it's selfish to do something that will help the United States, such as invade Iraq, take out a dictator, and preside over several democratic elections. No, that they're against. This is now the second time under the Obama administration that America has engaged in a military intervention, a continuation of a war in one case, solely so that our president wouldn't look like an idiot for something he said. Escalating the war in Afghanistan, the only reason he did that was that this rhetorical device to attack the war in Iraq, to say that was a war of choice, or a war of convenience, whereas Afghanistan, that's the real war. What does he think he's accomplishing in Afghanistan? And here it's because he said if chemical weapons were used, that's a red line.
The president has painted himself now into a corner. Now,
yeah, that's not a reason for America to go to...
All right, but here's the second part of this. I view any cruise missiles without regime change, this is like a therapeutic bombing. He gets to check the little column that says, oh, I bombed them because I said I would.
Right.
All right.
So he doesn't look like an idiot.
Putting Israel at risk. Now the second part is, now 30 months ago, there was opposition that was more secular, more pro-American. They no longer exist.
Yeah, it's too late now.
The likely regime replacement would be radical Islamists connected to al-Qaeda. That ought to be the second big question.
No, he's made an absolute mess of it the same way he did with Egypt. We lose a leader, Mubarak, who is pro-American, who uses his military to kill terrorists, who is friendly to Israel. Oh, well, 3 strikes and you're out. Liberals want to take him out. Then we have the Muslim Brotherhood come in. No, total conflagration there. Same thing in Libya. Thank you, George Bush. George Bush had just turned the loon, what's his name, the Libyan, Gaddafi. They just turned Gaddafi into America's best friend by invading Iraq. Gaddafi goes running to England and says, is he going to invade me next? He instantly opens up, says, I'm giving up my nukes, I'm giving up my weapons of mass destruction. And that's when Obama wants to take him out? Democrats do not care about American national security. They are always making this country more dangerous. We are still living with the consequences of the Carter administration and what happened in Iran.
Take a break. You're going to stay right there.
Not only that, we're talking about my book
when we come back. To the surface yet again. Now, you may remember that he angered bishops in the U.S. last year with his contraceptive mandate. Now, comments that he made earlier this week to students in Northern Ireland are stirring up controversy. Listen closely as the president appears to compare segregation to the Catholic school system.
Issues like segregated schools and housing, lack of jobs and opportunity, symbols of history that are a source of pride for some and pain for others, these are not tangential to peace, they are essential to it. If towns remain divided, if Catholics have their schools and buildings and Protestants have theirs, if we can't see ourselves in one another, if fear or resentment are allowed to harden, that encourages division, it discourages cooperation.
Well, if Catholics have their schools, that encourages division? Oh, really? Now, moments later, the president seemed to double down on his analogy by referencing the American Civil War. Watch this.
Our Civil War was far shorter than the Troubles, but it killed hundreds of thousands of our people. And of course, the legacy of slavery endured for generations. When I was a boy, many cities still had separate drinking fountains and lunch counters and washrooms for blacks and whites.
Joining me now with reaction to the president's unusual comparison, best-selling author Ann Coulter. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Reaction?
I have 3 quick points. One is, what a surprise that Obama is attacking America while he's abroad. Can you imagine Angela Merkel coming here and talking about, you know, what the Germans were doing in the 30s? Point 2, Obama himself spoke at a segregated school, and it's not like you have to go back. Oh, well, he was just a community organizer back then. It was last month he spoke at Morehouse College, an all-black, all-male college, which, by the way, I'm in favor of such colleges. It can be useful to pedantry, to learning things. And point 3, if your mission is to prove that Obama is an even worse president than Jimmy Carter, mission accomplished. Let's talk about immigration.
All right, let's take a little trip down history. Now, I don't often quote the New York Times, do I?
This better be about immigration.
No, this is about Obama. He did an interview with Nicholas Kristof in the New York Times. This is what he said. I was a little Jakarta street kid, he said in a wide-ranging interview in his office.
Oh, yeah.
He once got in trouble for making faces during Quran study classes in his elementary school, but a president's less likely to stereotype Muslims as fanatics and more likely to be aware of their nationalism if he once studied the Quran with them. Now, Mr. Obama recalled the opening lines of Arabic call to prayer, reciting them with a first-rate accent. In a remark that seemed delightfully uncalculated, quote, it'll give Alabama voters heart attacks, Mr. Obama described the call to prayer, one of the prettiest sounds on earth at sunset. Now, he went to a Muslim school. So is a Muslim school, is that segregated? Does that encourage division?
That is an excellent point. And all of those school children, particularly if they did not complete the school and they have no education and no schools, they will be let in under Teddy Kennedy's 1965 Immigration Act, whereas the Irish children he was speaking to, if they go on and get degrees in engineering and become a doctor, they will not be let in under Teddy Kennedy's immigration law, which is the most important issue facing our nation, and contrary to some other not you, Sean, television hosts. Look, this isn't a done deal now, and I think a lot of people are being led into complacency by some TV hosts saying, oh, yeah, this is going to pass, this is going to become law. John Thune said today, the calls are coming in, and they are all on one side of this issue. And I didn't hear everything my favorite Congressman Steve King said in your prior segment. He has totally been leading the way on this, but I hope it is, and I think people, when they call their senators, should know this, or rather members of the House. We want no House bill, because even if they pass just a fence bill, just an E-Verify bill, it will go into conference with the Senate bill, come out amnesty, and I'm sorry, but idiots like Paul Ryan will vote for it. You add that to 100% of the Democrats, it will pass right now. And, you know, there are a few other, I mean, the sophistry being used, it's strange how whenever Republicans start pushing liberal ideas, they start engaging in liberal argumentation techniques, i.e. lying, coming up with silly arguments. Let's just take de facto amnesty. Well, okay, we have de facto amnesty for murderers in America because thousands of murderers do not get caught every year. Well, do we grant them amnesty? How about tax people who don't pay their taxes?
I'm having a hard
time. Are we giving them de facto amnesty?
I'm having a hard time understanding. Doesn't America have the right to be a sovereign country and secure its borders? Why is that even controversial, and why don't you do that first?
No, absolutely, and it's going to take a while to have it done. As I've said before, a fence isn't that complicated. We've been obliged to build it all this time. The fact that the fence is not being 100% built, that E-Verify is not being put into place, shows that they're absolutely not serious. And the only reason the Democrats want this, the only reason is because it will help them electorally. And this idiot argument that somehow the Hispanics who live here are going to hate Republicans more. Look, every poll that's taken, not only the 30 million new illegals, every poll says 80% of them are going to be voting for the Democrats. This is why the Democrats want it. They don't care about these people. But if we don't give them amnesty and they don't become citizens, they can't punish Republicans. So we're talking about 70% of 8.4%. 70% are the percent that vote Democrat already of Hispanic voters. Only 8.4% of the electorate are Hispanic voters. And the argument is they're going to dislike Republicans more. They're not voting for us now.
You know what I don't understand here? It's like Republicans are suckers. And I don't trust the government. Every time there's a talk of a tax increase and spending cuts, you get the tax increase, never get the spending cuts. You always get the amnesty, never the border control.
No, that's right. That's why the patriotic House members' position has got to be, until the Senate is in Republican hands, preferably Rubio-free, sorry, we're not even going to pass a bill that mentions immigration. And you should know that John Boehner secretly wants to pass amnesty because his idiot consultants are telling him, oh, it's going to be a great boon for Republicans having 30 million voters who will never vote for a Republican. But they need fig leaves, like this amendment in the Senate today. It's an utter fig leaf to pretend this is going to secure the border. What, one border agent every 1,000 yards? All this is more government workers, more pensions. It doesn't shore up the border. It's a fig leaf to allow Republicans who want amnesty but don't want their voters to punish them. Punish them, voters. We do not want this amendment.
Good to see you. Coulter.
Thank you. Good to be in studio.
Coming up next.